Hello. Let's see. See if I can get this. All right. That looks relatively in focus. Hmm. Get a bit more light. So yeah, my name is John. I I am an artist. I am not a streamer. I don't really have experience in it, but I am trying anyway because I just want to you know it would be nice to have uh, somewhere to kind of vlog, somewhere to share my thoughts and my process, and just kind of um, have somewhere something to keep me accountable. Um, See if anybody. I mean, I'm not really doing it for. No, I don't really expect anybody to see this. But I am aspiring this year to uh, get an art business off the ground somewhere where I am going out and setting up a booth at fairs and events and selling my art. And it would be nice to just have some record of my of a presence online somewhere that I can open up or sort of create somewhere where people can access access me, uh, access my mind, and get to know a bit more about me. Maybe as people meet me and want to know more about my work, but also just to kind of um, be held accountable to a goal of sharing my work or of sharing of kind of yeah. I mean, I do draw every day already, and it's not so much that I need uh, I need to be held accountable to make sure I draw every day, but um, it would just be nice to get into the practice of drawing and talking at the same time. I'm still haven't decided yet if I'm um, going to go more into selling animal drawings or prints of animal illustrations, or if I'm going to do caricatures like live portraiture. But I figure either way, it will kind of be good for me to be able to talk while drawing and kind of get myself more um, experienced at discussing the kind of ideas that percolate through my mind. Um, I have there's a lot of intricate and nuanced thoughts that come up. Um, and, it'd be nice to sort of get better at articulating them clearly. Um, and I know that journaling would be ideal. I've struggled for a while to get into journaling to the same degree as I have with drawing every day. But um, yeah, I'm mostly going to be drawing for you and then, you know, share thoughts as they come up. Mm, Decide what angle I want to draw. this raven from? Let's see. This is an animal that I've become um, really kind of enamored with lately. I lived out in Oregon for a year, uh, and there were just so many blackbirds, so many ravens, and I think I feel I had to move back from out of Oregon, but I feel really close to it. Um, and as I started drawing more in earnest about a year ago, um, I've been drawing for a long time, but it was about a year ago that I decided to really pour myself into it and commit more fully to making a career out of it, or just not. I felt like I was perpetually letting myself down by not drawing more often, and I was kind of tired of feeling that way. Um, and so I finally got serious about it. I started really digging into online tutorials and kind of being more regimented in my practice. And with that, it felt like I kind of reconnected to the things that I really care most about. And like it felt like I kind of reconnected to my core identity, or got a real, much better. I felt like more of like a continuity with my childhood self in a way, and my child John was um, really fascinated with animals. Loved, really loved, especially like dark and misunderstood animals. Yeah, and I think I like animals that kind of are seen as maybe outcasts. I really like. I also, a little while ago, I saw a a vulture and a raven on the same light post together, and I started imagining them as being friends, and like as being these kind of social outcasts, or just being friends together. I've had a couple of really close friendships in my life where we really bonded over being, just being kind of weird. So um, I think the idea of a raven and vulture that were friends really resonated with me. Oh, wait. I'm not doing a drawing. I'm kind of actually just doing a one-to-one, honestly, of the one reference photo. Um, I like to, you know, I feel like it's the most it's most enjoyable to not copy reference photos, but kind of use them as inspiration. But I think right now, as I'm pretty new to talking while drawing, I think I'm sort of defaulting to just copying rather than kind of using the references merely as like a a source for how to, you know, build an original illustration, which I can do. It's like ideally you would sort of take the various, kind of gestures or rhythm lines that you might see. Um, I wish I could point to the actual reference, but at the one on the bottom, sort of the different flow lines running along the cheek and around the head, or the one I'm drawing, this kind of line. It's like a line running here and a line running here, and really a line created by the beak here too. And these rhythm lines are really an amazing tool for taking an a complex organic shape, or like a reference photo, and then moving it in your head, kind of, or like being able to use, so if you're let me give an example. If a head is like this when it's sideways, like if it's a profile view, if you wanted to move it more, like so that the head's turned closer to you, then this flow line here, or rhythm line here, you can kind of imagine it in your head, kind of moving relative to the beak. So, like the mouth, let's see. So, I don't know if that is clear, but you can use the flow lines from, say, like this one, which I copied from the reference. If you want to imagine moving the three-dimensional shape in your head, which I did here, you can sort of imagine the way these flow, or these rhythm lines they give you kind of these rhythm lines give you an anchor point for different elements of the face, which allow you to kind of move it in your head without actually having a reference for this one. I know this one kind of does look like the second reference in the middle there, but yeah, so you can see what I like about this is that you get to see more of the mind at play. When you're just copying, when you're kind of just settling into copy mode, you're not actually activating parts of your brain that make a drawing compelling. It's sort of like, there's some people who are really good at photorealism, and that's kind of like what they end up focusing on. as an artist, and they can maybe take it really really far, but um, there's still something flat about it. You know, like in this drawing here, I think you can kind of feel more of the the way someone's mind works. You know, if you when you use references not to copy from, but as a tool for creating an original work that the mind has sort of pieced together using elements, then yeah, there's sort of there's more vitality to it. I appreciate, I see some, I didn't actually expect anybody to end up seeing this, but I've seen a couple viewers come in. So hello, at least come and go. Um, as the title says, this is my first time streaming, and it's harder than it seems. I mean, it's a skill in itself. You know, I can draw well, but being able to kind of talk in an engaging way while um, while drawing is definitely I appreciate it. I'm feeling I think I've sort of taken it for granted. Um, Sort of underappreciate just how difficult it is. You know, one thing I like doing, another kind of a hack that I've found for, you know, suppose you know, if you're copying a reference photo and you get it, one way to sort of like not get overly caught up in the details, or if you want to be able to copy it but like, yeah, but not get too caught up in the details, then I've found drawing from really small thumbnails to be really helpful, because you lose a lot of the detail, and um, you know, you might do more of like a one to one as far as like the shapes go, but then you kind of have to get creative with the details. Your mind takes over and starts connecting to those sort of um, generalizations that the mind makes. You know, where when we see a picture of a bird, you know, we interpret it in a certain way, and when those are represented in a drawing, those interpretations, it can actually feel more relatable than like a photorealistic drawing. You know, it's, you know, I think like caricature works in that way, where like qualities of a person are heightened in a way that make it more accessible and like feel more real to a viewer than like just if you were drawing, you know, like a kind of a photorealistic copy, or even just like people who draw or paint very realistically in a very structured way, where you know you measure everything very carefully. Um, you know, I feel like sometimes you know you can have a more of a sense of what a person looks like, or you relate to it even more if it's just like a kind of a quick gesture or a quick caricature, more than like a highly rendered realistic um, yeah, portrait. So let's see. You know, one thing that you know, every artist struggles with, and that I'm certainly working to improve, is learning to use reference photos only when you need them, like uh, to try to like get out of not leaning on them, not just copying details, but rather like trying to follow your mind, what your mind, what you see in your head, and then only when you come up to like a hurdle, like, oh wait, I'm not exactly sure how this part looks, then you can kind of look back at the reference photo. Um, but it's so tempting. It's like it's so much easier to just lean on the reference, just copy the reference. Like that copying is a skill that most artists master fairly early on, and because it's one that they're already really familiar with, and it's easy to kind of fall into leaning on it. But then you're not really growing, and you're kind of limited in how how compelling you're limiting how compelling your work is going to look. And I hope I am understandable. I hope you can follow what I'm saying. My partner says all the time how I'm. I mean, I have like very neurodivergent, and I struggle to make a really coherent thread sometimes. That my mind can kind of jump all over. Um, let's see. I'm drawing with this is an old pen, but it's a new one for me. Oops. It's a fountain pen by Waterman from the 1980s. I think it's called a exclusive, a Waterman exclusive. It's a gold nib, which is pretty. It's really nice. I've been drawing with a lot with fountain pens for a while, and this is my first gold nib, and it is very smooth. It's like it has a very different feel. I think I've kind of gotten used to how scratchy and how much resistance you get with a steel nib, and so I'm kind of trying to. It's like this pen wants a lighter touch, and I was hoping to find. I know there are gold nib pens that have like a really they call them like more like flex, where you can kind of get a lot of line width variation, but with more pressure, and not really getting that with this one. But it does have a really wonderful, like, smooth feeling to it. And it has a really nice flow too. Like if I make like a scribble like this, like I can get like a constant ink flow, which isn't that's not something I've had in or like a good fill of tone. It's not something I've had with a fountain pen before. Let's see. I was talking about how much I love ravens, and I had a when I was out in Oregon, I was working this one job that had me driving a lot, and stopping at um, grocery stores, and when I would sit in the car in the parking lot, I, I, oops, I guess my computer's dying somewhere. um, my laptop. But yeah, I just had, I felt like I had this like connection with the ravens there. Like they would always be hanging out in the parking lot, and I would like chat with them, and they would kind of communicate in their own way with me. um, and yeah, and since I've been sort of taking up my drawing more seriously and feeling a kind of a reconnection with my inner child, like I feel more of a sense of um, like continuity of self. Not to get too you know philosophical, but just like I feel just more attuned to my childhood self, and my as a child I was just so fascinated with animals, especially with ravens. I had kind of a I think I always kind of wanted to like lean more into kind of witchy stuff, or like dark, macabre, mm, you know, style, I guess, or aesthetic. But I never really got into it. I think I felt like I didn't belong to me. But now I've been kind of exploring a lot, exploring just trying to draw the animals that I really feel an affinity for, and I'd like to, or do more illustrations and of like kind of the subject matter that I'm interested in. And I think that will ultimately bring me more success as an artist. If people come to my booth and see art that they can see themselves in, if I find other people who love dark or misunderstood animals and they feel an affinity for as well, then that would be my audience, the people that would be the my market there. I switched to a Japanese pen. I'm not even sure what it's a really nice one, a sign pen. Um, but I prefer kind of going in. Oh, okay, well, it looks like I lost connection there for a second. I got a notification that I did. Um, but it looks like it's back now. And yeah, sorry I don't have. I feel like I'm in a very dark apartment, but I feel like, oh yeah, I've got a raven on my desk. That candle. Just feel like it looks a little grainy. Okay. Hmm. Anyway, I'll work on that for next time. But yeah, I think a lot of artists will start with the darkest darks, and then kind of like kind of fill in from there. But I think it all depends on the medium too. This is just, ultimately, when you're an artist, you find what works for you. I mean, I think it's easy when you're learning to like get too caught up in the proper technique. I mean, and then it's good early on to kind of approach it that way. You want to like learn all the proper or like the most established techniques, but ultimately you kind of start finding your own best practices. Like the goal is ultimately to get to a point where your art is compelling, and that's just something that comes with time. It's not something that you can like force by learning better technique necessarily. You want to learn all the technique stuff so that then you can just kind of forget about it and um, just dig deep into what you find. Like, you start following your own path at some point, and you start leaning into or to what you find the most compelling. And over time you flesh out a unique style that is gonna speak to people and make people feel like really compelled by your work. So I feel like I'm kind of at that phase now as an artist where like, okay, I've done a lot of, I'll keep doing work on fundamentals and whatnot, but um, at a certain point you want to also make sure you're investing the majority of your time in exploring what brings you the most joy, the most excitement, or what you find most compelling. Anyway, I appreciate anybody who's come by today, um, taking a chance on some unknown person. Um, I mean, I'll have to work on sort of how to stream better. Like, I kind of just picked a random picture of some ravens I had drawn. I didn't take any time to like edit the picture to make it more compelling, more interesting. And honestly, I was hoping there wouldn't be too many people. I mean, I would like think I would get really kind of really struggle uh well, if there were like 100 people on here, I'd probably be like, oh man, what am I doing? But this is what I was kind of hoping for. Just somewhere where I can kind of do like a Bob Ross thing. Okay, well, it looks like it's back, but I think I will go ahead and end it there. So I can go and let my armpit sweat dry out because I am sweating. I think mostly because of nerves. But anyway, thanks again to everybody who came out or who stopped by. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's it. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.